What is my prayer life like right now? That's what I thought I'd talk about on this video on theologians and Camaros drinking coffee, driving around, and having fun, discussing theology. You know, your prayer life obviously is always going to reflect some type of ideals that you have combined with what your theology about prayer is. Mine may be a little bit different, but I first think I used to have a big list. I'd keep it in my car, and I'd always feel the guilt of not praying enough, and sometimes not praying formally enough. You know, having certain times where you pray, and certain people that you pray for, and just kind of going through the rote of going through the Lord's Prayer or something like that. And I did that for a long time, especially whenever I was on staff in Stonebriar Community Church, and the car was the best time that I found to do that. Hey, go figure. That's the best time I find to do just about anything. I like being in the car, and I think well in the car. But my prayer life it might surprise you, but I don't really have any formal times of prayer anymore. And, it's kind of intentional based upon the way that I think that we as individuals relate to God. I have nothing against having a formal time of prayer. And some of you, that's the way you do it, and that's the way you do it best. And there's absolutely no reason for you to stop. Whether it's in the morning or evening or afternoon or before meals, none of that kind of stuff I've done in quite some time. Just because I began to think, how does God want to relate to me? How is it that his and I relationship is supposed to be? And I kind of feel like your relationship with God is to mirror your relationship, or it's to mirror who you are. It's not supposed to have some big dynamic change whenever you're talking to God compared to whenever you're talking to other people. I think of it sometimes whenever I hear people pray and they change their voice and change their inflection and all kinds of things to kind of mirror what everybody else does. And I think to myself, I've never heard you talk like that. You've never talked to me like that. And is that the way you always talk to him? Is it some formal thing? Kind of you're coming in the presence of a king and you have to talk differently or speak differently? I don't really think that's the way it is, because I think that we as Christians come to God both in awe of God, yes, but also as friends, as someone who stands in the grace of Jesus Christ and what he has done, and therefore we should be ourselves as much as possible. And so my prayer life is present for sure, and I don't necessarily sense God's presence all the time, and therefore I pray. It's just that I know he's present all the time, and I'm kind of in a continual conversation with him, to where, something happens and I'll begin to talk to him about it. God, what do you want me to do about, this problem that I'm having with one of my kids? God, help me out with trying to make decisions. God, forgive me for what I just said. I'm so sorry. Help me to change. And sometimes I think of God and I talk to him and I say, God, don't you think that was just funny what I just said? It's pretty good. I don't know. I talk to him the way that I would talk to everybody else for the most part. Now, there really is also the sense in which I can come. So train tracks coming up. Bump, 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 bump. I can come in the presence of God in a different way, where I'm approaching him as the holy God that I fear. And there will be those times, I don't know if I would call it more formal times, but more times that are necessary for the moment for me to come to him that way. Why? Because that's the way I do with a lot of people. I mean, whenever there's things that I need to deal with people, I change according to the situation. I just don't have one attitude or one part of my personality that I expose to them. And so that's kind of my prayer life. And I think of it as a continual prayer life. It's something that since I believe he is always present, I am always in a state of prayer with him. Could I do better? Of course I could do better. Of course I could be more involved with him. Of course I could have more faith in my prayers, because that's probably the biggest problem with my prayer life is I don't know, how to have the faith that is necessary. Of course I could bring more people to him and quit being so selfish in my prayer life. I'm very selfish in my prayer life. If I pray for somebody else, I pray and it's over with, and I'm pretty much done with it. I don't bring the same thing to him too often, over and over again. I kind of ask him something, I ask him for something, and it's kind of over with. I do thank him for things continually as I recognize it, maybe over and over again for the same thing, because I'm thankful over and over again. But anyway, that's kind of the summary of my prayer life. I don't know if you found that interesting, but that is what you got.